Hi, everybody. I am not Chris Doe. I'm Petrula Vrontikis, and today we're turning the tables. I'm in Chris Doe's chair. Chris is going to be interviewed.
Let me try this again.
I want you guys to listen to me.
Yeah.
I design sandwiches. My name is Jose Caballero, and I talk about the design of business. I talk about a lot of stuff.
My name is Chris Doe, and I talk about the business of design.
At the center of this operating system, it's about understanding.
Jose, can we just tell them what the show title is?
I hate you, dude.
You are watching The Process.
We're live. We're back, guys.
Yay!
All right. Obviously, Petrula looks a little different than me. She has a little bit more hair than I do. So first of all, internet, Facebook Live people, let us know if you guys can hear our audio volume. Somebody's adjusting it live for us. So if the volume is low, just let us know and we'll adjust it. But we're doing something different today, Petrula.
We're doing something different.
And I love this idea. And you're going to put me in the hot seat. And
Yep.
this is some place I'm not usually in because I'm the one usually asking the questions.
Well, I know that most everybody knows you, but for those people who don't know you, and because you're a businessman, can you give us your elevator pitch?
My elevator pitch, it depends the context because I'm doing a lot of different things these days.
Elevator pitch.
My elevator pitch. I'll say it's right to the camera. I run two companies. One is called Blind. It's a brand strategy design consultancy. And the other company that I run is called the Futur, and that's an education and content platform. What I'm really trying to do is to educate and fill the gaps that exist between what you learn in school as a creative human being and to fill the gaps from the business aspect. That's not much of an elevator pitch.
Well, we'll start there.
Okay.
So you've got lots of followers, and you've had a lot of students, and you've got great clients. Why should people take your advice?
Well, which people are we talking about? Business people?
Business people.
Okay.
Actually, no, let's say your viewers.
My viewers. I think they should take my advice is because I've been running a successful design practice in one of the most competitive markets in the world here in Los Angeles for 21 plus years now. And we've built, I think, a good roster of clients from the who's who in the world, from the biggest brands in the world, from Nike to Sony to Audi. And we've consistently delivered in those 20 plus years. What I've been doing now is to distill that information down and sharing it in a very open and transparent manner with our audience at the great price of $0. So you get what you pay for, maybe, or maybe you get a little bit more. But I guarantee you, if you're not satisfied with the product, I'll refund the $0 that you've paid.
I think the discussions are what's really important. I think the new ideas and debates and things that you brought up have been really super useful.
I like to think so.
Yes. So in terms of changes that you've seen in our industry, in the creative industry, can you pinpoint some of those and why you think it's important to those that are learning about this merging of creativity and business?
Okay. I think what's happening is the bell curve in terms of the size of design companies that have been successful is changing. So if you look at the bell curve, if you imagine it like that, small to medium-sized practices used to do really well, and we've done well for a long time. And I think some disruptive forces have upset that business.
Forces.
The internet.
Ah.
The internet has connected us and has done wonderful things for us. But it also means that if I'm a young designer working in Pakistan or some East African country or parts of Asia, I have access to the same clients that we do in Los Angeles, but I don't have the high cost of living, and I don't have the high labor costs and all that is attached to that. So sites like 99 Designs or Fiverr or Elance or Odesk or whatever those sites are, they're brokerages for creative work. And so what they're able to do is to connect a business owner with a creative person somewhere in the world. And they can do this for a fraction of the cost. When we're talking about, in some countries, $30 a day is a good wage, now we're talking about some economic forces at play here. Mm-hmm. People who have been running practices who have impeccable design pedigrees. Now those people out there are going to say, well, I'm not going to compete with somebody from Elance. And in truth, they shouldn't have to, and they're not really. But what it's doing is it's eroding out the middle of the market. So people that have run successful practices, that 1, 2, 3 person operations, or maybe up to 20 or 30, they're dealing with this kind of downward pressure that they're feeling. So what's happening now is there's the inversion of the bell curve, where there's lots of small players that are doing it for very little money, and there's a handful of really big players. And we see this in parallel with our economy. The middle class is getting crushed. More people are getting into lower income brackets, and there are more billionaires and oligarchs and that sort. We're seeing the same thing happen, and design is not anything special in terms of it being impervious to any of this happening.
Do you see that happening in education too?
Ooh, that's a good question. Do you?
I don't know. This is an interesting concept. I wonder if that layer can be used over education.
Honestly, I think it's going to happen. And you've heard me talk about this before. It's not happened yet. But the crazy thing about disruptive forces is it's like there, it's about to happen, and then you're caught up in the tide pool and you're gone. And we see it happening. So I can see this because you can see the proliferation of online education platforms running a very independent model. They're very agile, they're lean, they're running, they're testing, they're doing experiments. We can see companies like lynda.com be valued at $1.5 billion or something like that. So the market is speaking that these things seem to be valuable, these platforms.
Does that worry you?
No, not at all. It excites me.
Excites you. So what does worry you? What keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night? I guess my initial reaction to what keeps me up at night is not very much. I sleep really well. I really do. And I'll tell you why, and let me explain that before everybody's like, oh, there he goes again. You're gonna get me into hot water. I sleep really well at night, first of all, because I work like an animal. So by the time my head hits the pillow, I'm out in like minutes. So I don't have any left. As they say, I left it all on the mat, right? 100% of my energy when I'm working, and then when I'm ready to go to sleep, I got nothing left. But why don't I have to worry? Mostly because people tend to worry about things like their finances, like are they going to make rent and what's the future look like? Now, I've been very conservative with my finances, and we've been in a very lucrative field for decades, and I've been able to save up the money, so I don't need to work anymore. The money is set. Like my kids are set, the house is set, we can live for a really long time and I don't have to make any money. And so the financial burden, the pressure is not there. So that gives me space to think, dream, and take some risks. And I'm not an extremely risky person. I'm not out there gambling with my company every single day. So that's not something that concerns me too much. Like we can weather many storms, and we have.
Do you worry for designers coming out of school?
Not really. Can you explain, like, what do you mean, like?
That maybe what they're being trained to do is not what they're actually going to do.
I do think about that a little bit. I'm concerned to a degree about the broader educational system from pre-kindergarten all the way through college. So it's not just about design college per se. And I think there's something that's going on, and the more I learn about how our education system is set up, the more I think it inhibits creativity. And in the 21st century, with some of the global social, economic, and environmental issues we're facing, we need creative thinkers, big thinkers who can connect disparate ideas, who can see connections where none exist.
And let's keep talking about that. What are the challenges that creative thinkers have in a business-minded community?
Okay, I think the challenges are going to be creative thinkers are not viewed as people to be taken seriously. They're not at the executive table, if you will. There aren't too many designers who become viewed in that same level as an executive to make decisions about the direction of the company. A rare exception to that would be Johnny Ive at Apple, where he's heading up so many different things. And you can tell he's valuable at a company because he owns a part of the company in terms of his stock. So that guy is a very wealthy man, right? But in most traditional companies, designers are seen as people you talk to at the end of a decision process. So we identify a business problem, we come up with a strategy on how to solve it, and it's run through marketing, it's run through lots of different people, and then at the very end somewhere, designers start to touch it and make it. And so that's a kind of more of a traditional waterfall system of project management where each decision gets made and it travels down to the next rung on the ladder, if you will. And designers are somewhere at the very bottom of that.
I don't know, Chris. I think creativity and the value of creativity is in a renaissance, especially in the tech companies now.
Well, I totally believe that.
Okay, so let's talk about why do you
Okay.
think that's happening?
I said
because
in
that
most-
seems a significant value of creativity within companies.
Yeah, it should be. And I personally believe there is no better time to be a creative person in the world, because more and more every day, the things we come in contact are digital. They're interfaces that we touch and we use, and we need people to understand how to do that. So there's tons of opportunities. So if there's one field of design that's doing really well, that's growing, that's expanding, where people are making really good money, it's in tech.
So what about within other non-tech companies? Are you seeing a renaissance of creativity in the non-tech fields?
I don't know. Do you?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I wonder if there'll be.
But like I say, let's say you take a traditional Fortune 500 company. Where's the design department? Where's the creative department, if that's what we're talking about? And what is the size of that department relative to the size of the company? And is the creative department driving it?
Yeah, I think that is a very interesting thing, because if a company is selling design, then they tend to value design. If they're not selling design,
Yeah.
then it's fairly insignificant within the context of decision making.
Let's say Target. Is Target a company that sells design?
Yes, Target is a company that sells design, but Target has a lot of different issues where what they're advertising is not necessarily the experience you have when you go there.
Okay, so
there's a disconnect there.
Okay.
But I think that ultimately they've survived because they have upped the level of design in the products they're selling, and it's appealing to a certain number of people, and they've been able to keep the price low.
Okay.
So the answer is yes in some instances and not so much in other instances.
Right. So to me, I think Target's a wonderful example of a company that's worked on their brand, because to me, there's not a lot of difference between Target and Kmart. It costs the same amount to design something well as it does to design it poorly.
I don't know about that.
I think so.
Really?
Yeah. Because the same designers are getting paid to do something. You just didn't hire the good designers to do the work. And so the end user gets a Michael Graves lamp, and it's not significantly more than another crappy lamp to me. We're not talking about in terms of the cost for you to purchase. So you look at it and it's like, okay, I'm not talking about this Philippe Stark lamp, but like in terms of consumer goods, there's one kind of shampoo, one kind of razor, and there are nominal price differences between the two. That's what I mean. It doesn't cost significantly more. Now, maybe the process of making it relative to one designer to the other might be different, but in terms of the cost to get that product to market, it's a tiny drop in the bucket.
So if I'm a young creative and I am interested in starting to learn about business, because I don't know anything about business, where should I begin?
If you're a young creative and you want to learn...
So say I'm in community college and I'm taking some design courses, some illustration courses, and I'm really into it. And I want to go to the next step, and I'm listening to your show, and I'm like, okay, what's this business thing about? Well, I'm still in school. What kind of courses can I take, or what should I be doing to develop my business chops?
I got it. Okay. I don't have a great answer for you, but let me try. The first thing that I would encourage you to take is our marketing courses. Okay, so you need to learn about marketing and what marketing is supposed to do. So that marketing is somewhere, I think, that lives between creative and business, because marketing has a real goal with tangible results. There are goals to hit. The second thing is I would take some kind of business or entrepreneurship course, if that's possible, and that's going to be a difficult thing for a creative person to sit through, because you're going to deal with a lot of business theory. But those are not good solutions. I wish there were programs already set up that were a hybrid of the two. Stanford has the D School for Design. Why don't design schools have the B School for Business? And why isn't that even being discussed within our design community? Do you know of such a program?
Not yet.
Somebody told me that there is such a school. I'm like, okay, sure. I'll believe it when I see it.
There-
But somebody in our network says, yeah, this school exists.
I think it should too. I think something like that should definitely exist.
So where is this, the Stanford of design schools doing the B school for business?
I don't know. I have a question from a viewer.
Okay,
Okay?
love it.
How can a designer best look to scale their value beyond the billable hour? That's from Zachary Richard Hill.
I love Zach. Hey, Zach, what's up, man?
Hey, Zach,
So-
what's up, man? I'm not Christo, but
Hang in there, hang in there.
okay.
Better looking version. How can a designer best look to scale their value beyond the billable hour? Okay, well, this is a complicated question. Can you first take a shot at answering that? And then I'll do my best.
I think in the beginning, you tend to be working hourly because you are, you're not sure how long something's going to take and you're not sure yet of its value. And I think as you get more experience, you start working less from hourly, and because you can add into the mix that level of experience. Truthfully, things actually take you less time. You're working more efficiently and you're working better creatively. So you will be, you won't be well served to be working hourly because you're really good at what you do and you do it quickly. So I would say you'll have to start out billable, but then when you get that expertise, people are going to come to you, and it's not going to be about an hourly rate. It's going to be about a really understanding what the scope of the project is and figuring out the value you bring to that.
Great.
Want to add to that?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
You're-
So
you're on,
I
you're on.
recently scanned this book on like 101 things I learned in business school. I was just thumbing through it last night. It's a very easy book to thumb through. And it said a business transaction is made when both parties see greater value in the thing that they're receiving versus the thing they're exchanging, which is kind of an odd concept if you think about it. So Petrula, let's say you're selling a notebook to me, okay? And this notebook you want to sell to me for, say, $5. The interesting thing is there's only a transaction that happens between you and me if I see greater value in the notebook than my $5, and you see greater value in my $5 than the notebook that you made. Isn't that an odd kind of shift there? Does that make sense, first of all? I see your eyes looking in the corner.
No.
Okay, every day you buy something, right? You part
So
with
it's
your
what
hard-earned
it's
cash.
what its value is in the market, not necessarily the value of the transaction.
Well, the transaction can only take place if both parties see greater value in the exchange in the transaction. Otherwise, it doesn't take place. Everything you buy is more valuable to you than the money you gave them. Otherwise, you wouldn't have purchased it.
Okay.
Can we accept that?
Okay.
And everything that the person that's selling to you, the money you're giving them is more valuable than the cost. Like a purse. Okay, so you buy a Louis Vuitton purse for, let's say, $3,000. You value the purse, the $3,000 purse, more than you do the $3,000 that you have.
Got it.
And Louis Vuitton made it for like $50. So they value the $2,500 gross profit difference between the two. So an exchange is made. So you guys stick with me, Zach. Zach, stick with me. You guys follow that concept? Does everybody understand that concept? It's a basic fundamental tenet of business and exchange. Okay, we exchange something. It could be that you want to wash my car and I'll mow your lawn. And you think what I do is more valuable and I think what you do is more valuable, so therefore we do it. That's how it works. So here we are. So Zach, this is the way I've always kind of felt about business. When you make a logo, everybody here can understand the concept of a logo. The logo is the same amount of effort to you, but it's more valuable to different kinds of people.
Yes.
Okay? So if I design a logo, let's say I'm really fast and it takes me 5 hours to design a logo, and I want to charge $1,000 for it. And that's what I'm thinking in my mind. Well, there's a customer out there that sees value in that, and there are customers that don't. So here's my thing. The same amount of work can be put into something, but be worth something totally different to somebody else.
Absolutely. I
So-
mean, in the sense, like if the logo's for the corner coffee shop,
Corner coffee shop?
there's only so much value that that logo will have because it will always be just the corner coffee shop. But if that logo is for
Starbucks.
a very large company,
Okay.
like Starbucks,
Yep.
that logo is worth more because that brand is worth more. It will hold more value because it is symbolizing much more.
Why is that?
Because that's what's been attached to it, and because it's more scaled business.
Okay. I have a different explanation of
Okay,
this.
go,
and we've
go,
talked
man.
about this, you guys. We talked about this. I like to assign quantifiable results with a certain thing. So if I design a logo, I look at risk assessment. The corner coffee shop, they only gross $1 million a year. I only say only, but let's just relatively speaking. They gross $1 million a year. And so when you design a logo for them, they put it on one store, a couple hundred cups, and a couple of menus. So the risk to them is the cost it takes to produce the materials. So let's say they spend $20,000 in printing. So there's an attached risk and value to the logo. Conversely, Starbucks is going to roll this out across 5,000 stores, across airplanes and trucks and bags. So they're going to spend $100 million just in printing costs alone. So obviously the value to them is much higher, because if they get it wrong, that's a $100 million mistake.
That's really cool. I
Versus
like
a
this risk
$20,000
assessment
mistake.
business.
Okay? Now,
Nice
that's,
work there, Chris.
that's really negative.
Did you make that up?
Yes, I've lectured on this. So let's take the other side, because that's really negative. It's talking about like, oh, how much money you're going to waste. But that's where people understand. It's in their pocketbook. They understand that. But let's flip it. Let's make it positive. The way that you see this positively, and it's less true about a logo. Let's say it's about a website now, and you design a website. So Zach, you're going to design a website for $10,000.
Zach's going to design a website for $20,000.
$20,000. $20,000, Zach. For the same corner coffee shop, what do they have to gain by optimizing their site? They don't do any e-commerce. It's really about finding directions, and that's really all it's worth to them. So even if you give them the best website, it's mostly a vanity thing. It's like we look good, we sound, and we're consistent and all that kind of stuff. However, take the same analogy. Now plug it into Starbucks again. Now Starbucks is selling coffee mugs and cups and packages of whatever it is that they sell. So when the site isn't working, or when it's working, it generates a ton of money for them. So now they're talking about conversion. What's the conversion ratio? And they're doing heat maps, or understanding like where people are falling off, and they're looking at the flow. And they're looking for optimization because they want to be found.
Got it.
Okay, so if you roll back to the little coffee shop, if you do your job really well and you optimize the site, and it has to look good, but if you optimize site to be discovered, local coffee best in LA, and they appear, now you've attached a positive value to the work you're doing. That's another way to talk about what your work is worth. Your work is not worth that labor you put into it. I know that sounds strange.